have a month in, 8 a.m. I have 100 users pegging my warehouse, and we ran into this problem a lot at one of the last clients I was at. They had an instance where they had a machine, a VM in a private cloud, and it had only so much RAM and so much I/O, and so when they were peaking out in terms of use, like they have two choices. We can make this machine stacked all the time to be able to handle this huge load, or what's nice about this is I'll just come in here and I'll crank this up from 8 to 10 o'clock in the morning on the beginning of the months, and I can programmatically do that. And so now all of a sudden I'm not waiting half hour for my reports because everybody's buying for resources. But so yeah, I'm spending a lot more money for 2 hours a month. That's not too bad, right? And then during the evening you can straight up pause it, or you can crank it all the way down to this 221 per hour.
There's a lot of quick and easy ways to ingest that data too, and that's the thing. It's quick and easy to put the data in there. It's the extraction and the analyzation of it that is going to be costly, but you hopefully don't need to do that all the time. And when you do, you spin up more expensive things for a quicker amount, so you're still spending less when you need to.
You also have to stop thinking about the idea that something's permanent in terms of structure. You buy a server, even you create a virtual machine, we still think of it as machine and much less virtual. You can create something in Azure, use it to calculate all of your data, save the data off somewhere, and like you said, throw it away. Throw the infrastructure away, and if you've kept it as a template, the next time you want to create something, you just give Azure the template and it creates everything back up for you.
Everything's programmed and scripted. You can say, hey, here's my script to do this. Once I figure out once, it's kind of like now having Azure Studio. You can now do a whole bunch of things and script out what you need. Same thing with AWS and Google Cloud. With Azure now, you can say, hey, let me see when I completely script it out, and then you really easily call PowerShell or Bash scripts and then run those jobs.
Because believe me, you don't want to pay for premium storage. That's expensive.
Yeah, but I pull the stuff into my data warehouse. So imagine here, let's kind of recap. We started with this file that was unanalyzable, sat as a giant CSV that was worthless. We pulled it into our lake. We made it load ready. We pulled it into this warehouse. We also took this dim date table that we created using T-SQL in our structured environment. We pulled that into the cloud, and then we pulled that into our warehouse. And now, another thing I forgot to mention here is this new crime table that I've created using that large CSV file has a date key that I was able to generate using USQL and things like that. And so now, hey, I can transform or I can connect these two things together. I got my one-to-many kind of mini star here, and I can build all kinds of dashboards and visualizations and do analytics and connect these tools and actually use it. So, and again, that premium storage, I mean, money's always going to be the concern, but the fact is, just this idea that you can crank up that power when you've got 100 people pinging it, and like I said, last client, people were sitting around waiting for a half hour for the report, and all of a sudden that 100 people are only waiting 2 minutes. Well, okay, 20 minutes times 100 people times per day, or per month or per week, how much money is that compared to what you're spending on this thing? And I'm not trying to sell this, I'm not a salesman, but that's the point, right?
So
yeah.
The solution architected using these components would turn out to be cheaper than using SAP HANA.
Yeah, I would say that using any kind of ERP system, that yes, it's always going to be total cost ownership, always much cheaper. Again, it may look like, and you may see, but again, you start to analyze where am I doing that spend and what are my use cases and what do I need it for. And again, not every use case and say, hey, let's spin something up and do this kind of infrastructure or this platform.
But yeah, doing the platform as a service in the cloud as opposed to
I see a
building
lot of
out
stuff
machines.
like research and things of that nature, and you start saying, where can I land a lot of this data when I need to pull certain things or aggregate, or work with the medical credentialing, where they said, hey, we need to start analyzing twice a year this data and all these data sets of this unstructured data from all these metrics we could have. And they're pretty much dynamic metrics on the fly that a client can create. So we can land all the data for the 6 months, and then at that 6-month period, crunch it for a day or two, and really do it really quickly, really fast, and have really low total cost of ownership.
So I think we're out of time, but this is this is our last slide. It's called the gotcha slide. I'll even just kind of let you read it. We've kind of talked about it all too. Like, it's in an infancy. Maybe it's a toddler. It's been around for a while. It's not perfect. You know, ADF is not SSIS. The documentation out in the world, you know, Googling things.
I say non-existent because you can find stuff, but again, you're doing a lot of stuff yourself and you're trying to figure stuff out. And then you need to document that and say, hey, look, here, let me write a blog about it because that's how we're all going to learn. And again, you can see with Power BI, there's a lot more it's all about more community-based now than, hey, let's just document everything from the start from Microsoft.
Yeah, we talked a lot about where you spend money. And then, you know, security is absolutely something to think about. And, you know, there is an Active Directory on the cloud. Connecting to on-prem data, you have to use these data gateways. I had some interesting troubles connecting an API to the data lake store because that copy data in ADF wasn't allowing me to connect to my data lake store very effectively, and maybe it was the way my user was set up or whatever, but you know, again, it's in preview, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. But
And you think something might take 3 seconds in the regular world, it might take you a day and a half to figure out because again, it's all new.
One thing I didn't see on here, it would be the just runtime, you know, in terms of if you crank up the number of units or whatever on that slide, you could probably get some pretty fast performance.
Yeah.
More so than you would on, say, an on-prem dev server or something.
Yeah. And yeah, we don't have any exact metrics. We're crunching a lot of data for example there. That would be safe for the next presentation hopefully is.
But scaling performance is I think a big part about this. Like with Azure Data Lake Analytics, you can pump more nodes at a job. Like to analyze the performance, you can partition the tables in a specific way. If you know how you're going to read the data out, there's a lot you can do in performance, and it's just a lot of learning. I think as a community we'll have to do to work in the lake.
Can I have one comment?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I want to go to I can't remember the words you used, but when you were talking about the DW, DTU.
Yes.
I don't remember what
The thing about those, and what we're trying to do with those is, when we move, let's say you've got a VM, right, or an Azure SQL database, and you're expecting a certain level of performance. If you go from a DTU 10 to a DTU 20, your performance should double. If you go to a 40, it should quadruple, right?
That's a good point.
So it's a relative number for you, and it keeps you from worrying about CPUs and lets Microsoft say, okay, let's say we're at generation 20 processors, and you only needed to get a certain throughput, right? If you were doing it in VMs, you'd be paying based on the cores, and if the cores are faster, that's great, but you have to try to figure out, well then now do I need less cores to manage? Here you're saying, here's the throughput I want, I'm willing to pay this for this throughput, put it on whatever box you want. But when you're doing something like the DWUs in the data warehouse, if you go from 100 to 200, 200 to 400, each one you move, what essentially we're doing is adding another compute node to it and doubling your performance. I mean, it doesn't, each 100 doesn't double, but I mean, again, think of it relative, right? So we can take that up to 6,000 DWUs right now. So if you've got, just some massive ELT job where you've loaded the data into the lake, then use Polybase to pull that data in, do some, heinous transaction, manipulation of the data to put it in the shape you want it to be in your final warehouse, you might crank that thing up way high, let it run for an hour, pay the big fee for an hour, because the hours of time bound around billing, and then just crank it back down. But you get the load done. Right? And so yeah, you're paying for that performance, and if you're getting at 6,000 DTU, you're paying a really pretty penny, and we've had customers tell us that's not high enough yet. Just realize it's a relative number, and you can crank it to wherever you want. And when you say how long should something take, if you're at DTU 400 and you need to be done in half the time, is it worth the money to go to DTU 800 for however long that's going to run? That's really the trade-off you're making.
But at least it's clear. That's huge. And tiering up VMs and things like that as a whole is going to go the way of the dinosaurs.
And yeah, I do.
I'm just curious, that example of the client we were talking about where they did this, they ramped it up and got the people, the 28 people, or whatever, service report, who controls it?
I mean, like I said, it
if
can
I'm
be
doing relevant, I
programmatically.
can do that myself, right, but if I'm the only guy in there, but I've got ad hoc people running things all the time, well, my stuff's gotta be done right now.
That's again, it's all
How
your
did
use
that client
case.
control that?
So for us, we knew a certain time window and we needed to do it for a certain amount of things at a certain time frame. So if you're just gonna do it, hey, we don't know yet, that's when you have to start tracking metrics. Okay, let me try to see when we're using stuff, when we're not using it. Maybe try to, again, trend it and see, will I know it, will I not? And then again, you have scripts that are all written to say, hey, if we notice it go over a certain threshold, let's spin up 10 more things. Let's push it from 10 to 100.
And maybe,
And then spin it back down when we see the rate go lower.
and then maybe what, like, there's all kinds of role-based security on Azure portal, so if there's 3 people that are the controllers, the keepers of that money, and they have a budget, and they want to, you come up with a model, you decide how to maximize your budget for your warehouse use, when you can, there's all kinds of monitoring to see when things are getting pegged, and when things are maxing out, and take a couple months as a sample, and it sounds like a cool machine learning project to me too.
Exactly.
You can figure that out.
Or what you can do is you can run a runbook script to check how much your resources are, and based off of it you can bump up the resources.
Like I said, you hit a threshold, you say, hey, crank it up. It's just like,
I think the idea is you don't want to do
stock
it
gets
manually.
priced
though.
like this. Stock.
Well, that's kind of what I was.
I would build them. I think you can build these models. We're getting into the data science world. That this is really cool stuff to be able to build a model where the output of that model is, hey, this is how you should invest your budget. This is how you maximize your performance power given a budget.
But even at a crude level, though, you could do the Azure automation where it monitors itself and then scales it based on that.
Which is really cool though. And yet, I kind of say Microsoft's got kind of the opposite there. Microsoft's like, no, pause the service, use it when you need it. Whereas Google now is doing a lot of stuff where, hey, we'll give you price breaks to keep it on 24/7. So they're kind of saying, hey, use it all the time, and we'll give you price breaks and maybe find new uses for things. Microsoft's like, no, use it when you need it. Make sense, know your business, and know what you want to do with it.
Yeah. We didn't get into the other cloud services, but they all have a lot of comparable services that maybe work differently, and so.
Yeah, the one I'll caution on is you can run a VM with SQL Server in it, and you can stop the VM, paying nothing for compute and just paying for storage. I can do Azure SQL Data Warehouse. I can crank up the compute, I can pause it, paying nothing for the compute and nothing for the storage. Azure SQL Database doesn't give you that option. With Azure SQL Database, it is always running. So if you've got it up, it's always running. Realize you can change the performance of it. So if you've got a downtime, you can bring it down to a smaller size, but you can't pause it. And so if you haven't done anything with Azure SQL Database and you hear this discussion, it's like, oh, these guys were all talking about let's pause these things and stuff like that. Realize it is dependent on the service.
And things are named somewhat similarly or things, and like you said, you start reading things you notice. And again, as we go the next year or two, that we'll start seeing this dissemination of what's actually staying, what the naming conventions are.
And I'm not selling Azure, but the best way I learned is I spun up 200 free bucks. Get on there. I like spun up literally every little service they had and saw what I could get to work, and it's a fun part. That's something to kill a day. Check out Azure.
And if you have an MSDN license, you get, depending on your license, you get up to $150 of spend a month on Azure. So a lot of developers don't realize that.
Yeah, and your partners, you get all that great benefits they have right now for doing a lot of
You can kind of see why Power BI might be free, given that where they get you is spending on all these cloud resources and that account. Yeah.
Are you loading data into other like GCPs and stuff like that?
I have worked with Google Cloud.
What kind of tools are you using to load?
I haven't done anything Google related. I did AWS a while back.
Fred.
They have, I forget what it's
yeah.
called, but it's an SSIS-like tool, and it's, Chris, I don't know if you know the game, but either,
All our Google.
yeah, there's Google BigQuery, a lot of stuff is going, and then I forget what the actual tool is to actually move data, for data movement.
I don't know. I mean, Yeah, but we'll talk after. We'll figure that out.
Okay, I want to give you one hint too on the data factory and SSIS. Data factory can call a store proc and SQL server, so it can reach to an on-premise SQL server or a SQL server running in a VM. A stored proc and SQL server can kick off an SSIS package. Right? So if you do have an SSIS package, and you're like, crap, how am I going to convert this to ADF? You might not need to. Right? Stick a VM up there, have SSIS run in there. Have
Use your
SSIS
SSIS DB.
Yeah,
Use your SSIS DB for everything.
Yeah, asterisk,
How you
my
start
my
procs.
goal with this demo was to kind of be ETL in the cloud, entirely cloud-based. So yes, that's a good way to think. It's like, oh, I'll just put SSIS on a VM, problem solved, right?
And we are working to clean up that mess.
Like I said, like, 2 years Microsoft again, and like, so one of our things we always talk about is kind of just, this is where we're kind of at, is we've done a lot, like Chris said, thinking about physical and virtual, and people still, again, intertwine those. They never really think of being virtual. They're like, oh, I need this machine. And now we're starting to get, hey, infrastructure is now really mature. We've used a lot of that, and now it's, hey, how do we use a platform as a service? How do we start using now cool new things and having this database instead of service?
So if I was gonna ask you guys to prioritize SSIS as a service, or putting a GUI on top of ADF.
GUI on top of ADF.
GUI on top of ADF, that one came out really fast, okay. But that's good, so why?
This is your chance to give direct feedback to Microsoft.
It's
Come on.
so-
They're asking us these questions right now.
It's
this is
so
perfect time.
hard
If
to
you want-
develop in like a script-based.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I did, right?
People-
JSON.
That copy data preview is great if it would get out of preview and work all the time.
We think Data Factory, and when I was just to go past in Seattle last year, they said, yeah, I think that this might become it like that. It'll be the GUI-based system, and we hope they're functioning like that because with JSON, with XML, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. You just don't really, us as big data people, we don't know programming languages half the time, so it's very
I
hard
guess
for us.
I thought SSIS as a service and ADF might kind of overlap a lot. They might end up kind of being the same thing, but maybe not.
We need to understand the direction you guys want to take.
Yeah.
Which will come faster? Whichever one will come faster. Really, because whichever
Every audience you ask, you get the opposite.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think putting a GUI on top of ADF would be much cooler and I think much more useful in the long term. But I think short term right now, a lot of clientele we see are still small to medium sized companies that are using SSIS heavily because it's very cheap and easy to use. So I think using SSIS as a service would be a lot more beneficial right now.
people who do ETL on Microsoft are less keyboard involved. So if you're writing SQL statements on your own, then ADF isn't that big of a deal right now. But if you're using SSIS not just as firing out SQL statements and stored procedures, but you're using the drag each task, then a GUI on top of ADF is much more important.
Thank you.
There's maybe one more question?
Does the roadmap for ADF imply that it's going to be better able to handle these less structured workloads than SSIS? Or conversely, would the SSIS roadmap include being able to handle more unstructured data?
Is that at me?
Yeah.
Yeah, answer that question.
ADF is better to handle unstructured data because it's an orchestration engine. It doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot, right? It's a data pipe and it says, okay, execute this task. Well, what's the task you're going to execute?
Copy bytes, yeah.
Are you well? What engine are you calling? What tool are you calling to read whatever set of the data? Maybe the data's sitting in Mongo, or maybe the data's sitting in DocDB. Maybe the data's sitting in a bunch of JSON files. Maybe it's a bunch of CSVs. You have different engines that you might use to read that data, transform the data. Maybe it's what do we call the stream analytics, right? Maybe the data's coming out of there, right? ADF has a lot more flexibility with what is this thing I'm trying to talk to, and what language or what engine should I be talking to that with? Or with SSIS, we can point to a bunch of different data sources, but not a lot of these big data sources that you start seeing in the cloud, and not all that efficiently. So ADF just gives us a cloud-based way to do that and orchestrate the path. But with the way we designed it is we don't have it doesn't have lipstick on it yet.
And so I think of, like, I always think of when you work with Microsoft is, when you go into an Oracle database, or there's a lot of third-party connectors, because we have to build structured connections to things. Whereas ADF is, you don't need that structured connection, you make the connection. So you connect to anything, and when you make it programmatic, you can really do things really quickly, really easily, a lot more efficiently than SSI.
You can see a lot of Hive scripts and stuff run out of ADF. I mean, it's, you know, it's.
You're kind of depending
I mean,
on
that's
those
the
data
way
gateways though, aren't
Before
you?
data link, like, if it was a Hadoop cluster, you use build Hive tables. I imagine that's how ADF would call Hive, those Hive jobs, right?
One last question real quick. In the last slide, you mentioned the JSON scripting language. Were you referring to JavaScript in that, or is that?
I mean, I was referring to that ADF
Oh,
block of code I showed you
Oh,
as JSON.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just if you go into SSIS and view code, you see XML. Pretty much you view the code, ADF is JSON.
And that's how you communicate to their document DBs through the same
Yep.
format.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to school and become computer science major.
Everybody done. There's, that's it. Anything else?
No, keep going, I don't care.
Yeah. I
And
don't
like
know.
I said, and then Greg, like I said, we'd spend some money on spending a lot of it, as your use cases. What do you want to spend it putting it into it, pulling out of it? What's your use case? And again, though, you can get a lot of stuff for a couple $100.
Yeah. And it's hard to.
Move this roll bar over to 6,000. Because you're making it not sound like it's all that expensive.
It's expensive. It's expensive.
I forget what the number is, so.
If anyone wants to see, 6,000 is $72.58 per hour. So, but you know, if the job lasts 2 hours, you spend $160 and it's done.
Yeah,
60 times faster than at 120 or whatever.
Again, think about it again. How do you spend your money?